Good morning, Internet. It's Monday. Very excited to be here. Joe, Dan, how Billy? It's SJU.
Bring your hat to work day.
It is Bring Your Hat to Work Day.
The boys are back in town and they all brought their hats.
I wore a hat because I woke up this morning and had Kyle MacLachlan's hair from Showgirls and didn't want to be on camera with that.
Doesn't sound like a problem to me, but okay.
When I drink champagne, I always drink champagne. We're talking about so much more than just champagne and hats today. We're talking Bumblebee sequel, some iffy Transformers news. We're talking Kevin Tsuchihara, and we're talking that phenomenal poster for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that only a true artist could have possibly composed.
Oh, now I'm excited.
So let's just jump into this, guys. There's some Bumblebee sequels, and they're a little too Michael Bay flavored for my liking. Speaking to the producers about the film at the Pet Cemetery junket at South by Southwest, Collider's own Haley, who has a great horror podcast, and you should listen to it. She got some details about the lessons Paramount learned from Bumblebee's reception as the studio heads into the franchise's future. And these are the quotes. The audience had asked us several times in different ways, I want to get to know a Transformer better, which, yes, you do. The interesting part is when you set out to do something like that, you don't exactly know the ramifications of it. In this case, the ramification of it was, for the people who didn't love the movie, not enough action, because you're telling a more intimate story, therefore you can't. One of the reporters said to me, I love the movie, I love this, and I was very tired of Michael Bay. I said, I've heard this before, and he goes, but after watching the film, I kind of wish it had a little more Michael Bay. No one said that.
Said no one walking out of that
It was
movie.
really funny. I said, listen, I completely understand. I like what Michael does, too. This is a fake conversation. 2 different films, 2 different attempts. According to Bonaventura, the studio took that reaction to heart. The Bumblebee sequel and beyond, he says, will attempt to maintain the spin-off's grounded, character-driven tone while injecting just a little more of that fiery Bay flavor into the story. Yeah, just cover that nice meal in some donkey sauce. Goes on to say, I know the next Transformer movie, our attempt anyways, to sort of do a fusion of Bumblebee and the Bay movies. A little more Bayhem. Ugh. That's on a hat somewhere on a Bay shoot, and I hate it. And a little bit more of the character falling in love within the emotional dynamic of the movie.
Those are 2 diametrically opposed views.
Yeah, so let's start here, and then we'll start talking about sequels.
You can't have Michael Bay-ness and any sort of emotional depth. The 2 are repelling magnets.
No.
They can never be close to each other. It doesn't happen.
Also, the idea that... Sorry, Hal, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, is it going to be Bumblebee and Haley Steinfeld, but the camera just ogling Haley Steinfeld now? Or what the hell?
There's always an American flag behind her, always at dusk.
I think this is a great peek into how studio politics work, which is that, on the one hand, you had all the critics, the audience that went to see the film, etc., saying, I like this Transformers. It's different, and I enjoy it. I didn't like that, but I like this. And on the other hand, you have this one reporter I talked to. So let's go with that one.
Said the thing that my boss needs to hear for him to not be angry.
But the idea of just and this happens just about anything. This is actually sort of ties into something I'm working on for this afternoon, which is if you're looking for a certain type of reaction to something, if you already know what you want, then you're going to find it. You're going to find somebody out there that thinks that, and so you can then latch onto that person that agrees with you, even if there may be even more people, a lot more people on the other side that don't agree with you. Like, if you're looking for validation for a point of view that you want to have or already have, then you're going to find it. Yeah. 'Cause somebody out there is going to agree with it, and so you latch onto that. It doesn't really matter how many people are on what side. It's just how it goes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not that Bonaventura was committed to bringing Michael Bay back, but I think that they looked at the box office returns for Bumblebee, and instead of saying, hey, maybe it didn't do as well as the other Transformers movies because the other Transformers movies really ran this franchise into the ground. It was diminishing returns. People didn't really like them as much. The last one was the worst one that we ever did in the franchise.
That is literally why I still haven't seen it.
Yeah. Instead of saying, maybe that's why Bumblebee didn't perform, instead, it's more like maybe it's because it didn't have as many explosions.
Maybe it wasn't like the ones that everyone stopped seeing because they were bad.
Yeah, because of some lower or unexpectedly low box office, let's make up quotes and let's make up a point of view that's not a groundswell out there. But hey, we'll use that to justify more explosions.
Well, before we talk about the slate, I just want to talk about the idea that a movie can't have a strong emotional hook and also be a good action movie. Because I reject that idea wholeheartedly. Like that's like when people are like, oh well, the movie was funny so it didn't have any depth. Like comedy has emotional depth. Like an action movie can have characters that you connect with and care about. Like I care about John McClane in the first Die Hard. I care about his connection with cop Al Powell. Thank you.
I care about Newton Ripley.
Yeah.
You know, and that movie Aliens blows the doors off everything,
Yeah.
you know, action-wise.
And
So.
Bumblebee it wasn't like Bumblebee was
Yeah.
I was just
my
thinking,
dinner
it
with
was like-
Bumblebee, where they were just sitting at a table, like it was like
The whole third act is
More oil, please.
just explosions in a quarry.
like there was literally a scene of John Cena like shooting big guns at Bumblebee running around a mountain, and there was a whole thing on Cybertron with lasers flying around, and like there was no action. There was plenty of action in Bumblebee. It also just happened to also have character, depth, story. Character development, plot, things that were perhaps
crazy to
missing
me.
from some
I
of the
also
other
love that
Transformers
this
films.
pretty much is an admission that they're like, oh, if a movie doesn't have only action and no development, well, that's the Michael Bay style. We need more Michael Bay style because there's too much character, not enough action. It's like, okay, so the inverse of that is you're admitting Michael Bay movies
just
have
shallow garbage.
Except Pain and Gain, I like that one.
Pain and Gain's fine.
Although I
It's an
fully
outlier.
admit that's a movie where it's like take the worst tragedy of your life and make it into a dark comedy. Like if I were those people, that family would be furious. That being said, I really liked that movie.
Yeah.
When I saw it.
And you know what? I think you give me a good enough character piece in a Transformers movie, and you do take all the action out of it, I'll still watch it. Because characters are neat, and I like connecting with things. If you give me The Favorite, but with robots that turn into trucks, like, sure. I'll watch that weird-ass movie. Why not? Why not? So, okay, let's talk about what they are making, because unfortunately they are not making The Favorite with the robots that turn into trucks. We are already working on 2 projects, and both have scripts under development. One is the latest in the main family series following the events of Transformers: The Last Night. You know, the movie that ground the franchise to a halt and made you have to rethink your approach to begin with. Absolutely needs a sequel. The other is a sequel to Bumblebee, so we're thinking of films where Optimus Prime and Bumblebee will be the buddies, but when Optimus and Bumblebee are the movie's protagonists, how humans get involved in their drama in the first place, the size is different.
That just becomes a word salad.
Then it just, and then I stopped reading because I don't understand what the quote is saying.
Literally
after
the
that.
only thing I remember from Transformers The Last Night, and I specifically remember asking you when you went to an early screening.
Yes.
Because it bothered me so much in the trailer. Anthony Hopkins picks up a piece of paper. If I want to show you something, I go like this, right? And I was like, Dan, do they ever show why he goes like this to show someone, like holds it from the top with his elbows out? That's literally the only thing I remember from that god-awful POS 3.5 hours of that movie. And that it kept shifting aspect ratios and made me want to barf.
There's also having seen those two things can't coexist. They make that very clear at the end of Bumblebee. They're different universe.
They don't line up.
It would be like
Diametrically
Warner
opposed.
Brothers saying, "We're working on 2 Batman projects concurrently right now. One of them is a Michael Keaton follow-up where we bring Jack Nicholson back as the Joker, and one of them is a sequel with Jared Leto and Ben Affleck." And our thing with Batman movies is, in the team-up films, like, no, you've just pitched 2 separate friends. They live in different
Or
universes.
it's like,
but
Joaquin
you're
Phoenix's
pretending like
Joker
they're part of
existing in
one
the same universe as Jared Leto's Joker.
You pretend like they're part of the same universe. Like, no. They drew the line fairly clearly in Bumblebee that this is now its own thing. Mm-hmm. So to go back and
you can hit me with one shots.
I would be
Like,
curious
that's
to
fine.
what degree Lorenzo de Bonaventura is actively involved in the creative, the day-to-day creative
Yeah.
of the. I know he's credited as a producer on all of them, but
It's also.
I think the die was. I thought the die was cast with how Bumblebee worked, which was that this is not only a prequel to. This is not a prequel to the Transformers series. This is a new start, and I liked it. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to the other Transformers, Joe.
You have to go back.
For a decade. I waited for a good Transformer. A decade, Joe. 10 long years of
10 years
of noise and shifting aspect ratios and terrible performances. And finally they put a good one out there, and now they're saying, "No, we're gonna don't. You did it. You won me over." I hated the Transformers movies more than anything in the world. They're terrible. They were awful. They were misery to sit through. Miserable
And I'll say
experiences.
this, out the gate, the first one sucks. The first one sucks.
And you did one that I really liked. And you want to go back? Don't do it. Don't go back.
Is it impossible? Is there any middle ground between this character building, this good storytelling, and on the other end of the spectrum, the mind-numbing bludgeoning?
Well, 'cause I think-
is there any
the-
middle ground there?
I think the problem with that is that the only genre they see for they see Transformers as a genre, that it's just spectacle and explosions, and hopefully you like the robot. And that's all they can wrap their head around. Whereas as like the MCU develops, like they're having to start going like, okay, how do the movies feel a little different from each other? Because we cannot just keep rolling out the exact same formula over and over and over again. So figure out what other kind of stories you can tell. Do a buddy cop movie, but give me Lethal Weapon. Like Bumblebee's like Earth's head cop now. There's a robot named Cup who's like a cranky old man. He's the Glover of the duo, and Optimus Prime's like, you got 48 hours to find Starscream, and they do it. Like there are different genre movies you can tell
Now
like, with these characters.
they
in
just
this
want to
property.
inject more butts and flags into that, Joe.
God.
We need more butts and flags
We
in
did
these
butts and
Transformers.
flags for 10 years, Billy.
At least give me butts that I've never seen. Like, give me robot butts, at least.
I would love
Give me new butts.
exploitative robots leaning over other cars.
Oh, you want to see some more tailpipes?
We got them.
We did get like Transformer dong and testicles in one of them.
We
didn't
got Transformer.
So hilarious.
The enemy scrotum. We got Transformers peeing on things. The last two Transformers films, for my money, are easily two of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. Like, not just bad movies, just miserable. I regretted I would have walked. I don't walk out of movies, and I wished I could have walked out of the last two Transformers films. So the idea that you're going to somehow go back to that is not only artistically did people not like them, like the market spoke on that series of films. They don't want them anymore. Like the last night was the drop off between, not just in the United States, worldwide, but domestically, particularly. Like they don't. It's unless you can make them for half the amount of money, people don't want those movies anymore. And Bumblebee was a film that was saved by the fact that it didn't open great, but it had some sustaining power. It did well overseas, in a large part because it had a positive word of mouth. So to say that we're gonna because it just didn't do as well as the last ones did, that you're gonna backslide, like no, you're building something new. If you backslide and go back to the old way, then you're right back where you were.
You're rebuilding trust right now.
Yeah.
Like.
And they did a good job.
Yeah.
They did a great job. It was a great first step. Why would they don't do that? Stop it.
It's like when people forget that like Batman Begins was not like a huge thing because Batman and Robin had just crushed it for a lot is people. So it's like this is like if Nolan were like, let's go back and do another
nipples and black
let's go back to the Schumacher
This would be that is exactly right. This would be like if after Batman Begins, which did well but wasn't a massive blockbuster, they were like, Chris Nolan or whoever was doing, not even Chris Nolan, who would be one of the producers of that movie, I don't know, whatever, Peter Guber, he did the old ones, doesn't matter.
The guy that wrote Blade, that guy.
It was just like, David S. Goyer was just like, hey, Batman Begins, people really liked it, but afterwards I was talking to a reporter, and Batman and Robin, they were, people were just like, oh, I hated the humor, but this reporter came up to me after Batman Begins, was like, you know what, I missed some of the humor. So I think for the next one, we're going to try to inject, just a mixture of like the groundness of the bat, but a little more of the humor from the early. No. Terrible idea.
Where's Rachel? She has my Batmaster card.
Joe, since you haven't seen Bumblebee, literally that's what it would be like, is if they tried to inject Schumacher into Nolan's movie in Batman movies. That's what like a Bay in this Bumblebee is. It's like well, that doesn't make
that
sense.
That like upset my stomach listening to you say that.
Sorry, let me get you some Maylocks for that.
Yeah,
didn't like that.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Well, I think we're all agreed. We can't wait for the sequel to Transformers: The Last Night. You said it would be the last one. It's in the title.
But the next one's going to be The Next Night.
The next to last night.
The last night.
The night we hadn't seen yet.
The penultimate night.
Oh boy. Story number 2. This is huge. Actually, this is industry shaking. This is pretty big. WB chairman and CEO Kevin Tsujihara is stepping down from Warner Brothers. This is via Deadline. Warner Brothers chairman and CEO Kevin Tsujihara is stepping down in the wake of the texting scandal with actress Charlotte Kirk. This is a massive article a massive story that dropped in the past couple weeks. Take some time to check it out. We're not going to jump into it here because it's a long and drawn out thing. Basically, it's a really gross, sort of greasy feeling read of this situation between this actress and Tsujihara and Brett Ratner. You're just gonna want to loofah after you read it. Just a very gross story.
Wait, Ratner's involved in something weird and gross?
What?
Holy, what the?
Michael Bay put explosions in things?
Yeah.
What? We're gonna go through his memo, and then we're gonna sort of talk about like what this means for Warner Brothers moving forward, because they are in the midst, obviously, of some massive transit. They already just had some massive executive shakeups even before.
Yeah, he was just given a huge new role, expanded responsibilities, like this. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna jump into this, so here is his statement. Dear colleagues, over the past week and a half, I have been reflecting on how the attention of my past actions might impact the company's future. After lengthy introspection and discussions with John Stankey over the past week, we have decided that it is in Warner Brothers' best interest that I step down as chairman and CEO. I love this company and the people that make it great. I've been honored to head this organization and work alongside all of its talented employees over the past 25 years. Together, we've built the studio into an unequivocal leader in the industry. However, it has become clear that my continued leadership could be a distraction and an obstacle to the company's continued success. The hard work of everyone within our organization is truly admirable, and I won't let media attention on my past detract from all the great work the team is doing. I am overwhelmed and grateful for the outpouring of support I have received from colleagues and industry partners during this difficult time. Again, I am so proud of the great work that you do every day to make Warner Brothers the gold standard in our industry. It has been a pleasure to work alongside each and every one of you, and I wish you all the absolute best. So pretty boilerplate statement. I'm not really acknowledging I did anything wrong. I'm calling attention to the media attention to me is sort of the reasoning to step down and this and that. So that's the statement. This is huge, crazy timing for Warner Brothers. They just had a massive executive shakeup last year. He just, like you said, Dan, stepped into this huge role. They have a massive merger on the horizon. I think I've said the word massive 17 times in the past 3 minutes. I apologize. Not at the source. Large. Where he was going to now be overseeing the Warner, like this entertainment vertical under their new Weyland-Yutani sort of corporation, including Cartoon Network, including HBO.
HBO was going to a different division. HBO was going to like their streaming division, but he took over a lot of their network, their television properties.
Got it. And obviously, I really encourage you to take a look at this story. It's a fascinating one. It's sort of a frustrating and kind of gross one. We're not going to jump into it too much. Scheduling and stuff, as being what it is, I'd rather have Roth or Danielle or somebody like that here, just so that we can have a really cool, solid conversation.
Absolutely.
About
The
it.
one thing I'll just point out that jumps out at me from this statement: I'm glad he's doing okay. I'm glad he's overwhelmed and grateful for the outpouring of support he's received during this difficult time.
Congratulations,
it's like
sir.
he's painting him nicely done. Him painting himself as the victim here.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. Good for you, dude.
What's
Yeah.
interesting to me, just like the general kind of idea, it's like Warner Brothers is in an interesting spot right now. Yes, Aquaman was a big success, and I think Shazam will probably be a success for them, but DC has been kind of like a project for them, and then Harry Potter didn't quite perform. The Grindelwald was kind of not up, and then Lego Movie. You know, I was talking with Eric Goldman. I totally even forgot that came out. That was not what they were expecting. I just feel like they're in an interesting place right now, where it's like they have these big franchises, but I don't know exactly, you know, what the direction is going to be. And so it's like, do you bring someone in from the outside, or do you promote from within? Who's going to drive the ship? Because they have a lot of big franchises, but, you know, they're kind of all over the place.
I'm glad you asked that question, Billy. I think Warner has a few options. And I think they're in an interesting position because last year they shed some major executives. Sue Kroll left the company. She was the former president of Worldwide Marketing and Distribution. She was a huge influence over at Warner Brothers. She stepped down amidst their sort of executive shakeup and started her own production company on the Warner lot. So she's still there, you know, very much in spirit. There's Veronica Kwan Vandenberg. She was the youngest president in the studio's history who covered international distribution. She left last year to focus on family. So you have those two people who are no longer necessarily directly with the company, but still very much, you know, present, who really, really shaped Warner Brothers as it is today. On the inside, you've got Carolyn Blackwood. She's the president and COO of New Line, who could sort of make an easy shunt there. There's Toby Emmerich, Walter Hamada, who's the president of sort of oversees all of the DC production, Blair Rich, who's worldwide marketing, and then Peter Roth, who was, it's not apples to apples, but sort of a Sujihara on the TV end of things. So there's internally, there are a lot of people that could be like vying for the throne there. So there could very much be some full Hunger Games stuff going on in building number one over on the Warner Brothers line.
I'd rather it not be Hamada. I mean, it's like, I feel like DC is its own huge project. It's like, and I think he's doing a good job at least turning the ship around. And it's not an overnight thing. It's not a 1-2 movie thing. I think it's like a full course correction, which I think he's doing a good job so far. But yeah, that's a tough spot to be in. I don't know with Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I think. Sorry.
Oh, so I was going to say, I think that it does speak to a little bit of the, after everything in the last couple of years, a lot of it was not just about criminality, but it was about how Hollywood worked fundamentally. And I think this is a very big case of did anything criminal happen here from what's come out so far? No. But it spoke to a lot of the issues that have been under a lot of the microscope, which is power dynamics, people in high positions, how they use that power. And I think this is an example of perhaps how the thinking around that might have changed in the last couple of years, which is this sort of thing. And like it is a long tale, and I encourage people to go out and read it and educate themselves exactly what happened. But you know,
Hey Ryan, can we link to that in the description? The original article about
just to
but
piggyback.
This kind of arrangement was something that 10 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. That's how Hollywood works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get
the system works.
I don't want to get in the weeds on this stuff, but like that's the same argument that Harvey Weinstein's lawyers are using. In as much as they say there's been nothing illegal, they're claiming that it's all just a classic Hollywood casting couch kind of situation that's been an unwritten understanding for years. Is coming from that side.
But this idea of a re-examining of the power dynamic, it's like, well, just because someone in a position of power can do these things, and maybe because it's always worked like this, maybe that doesn't mean that it should. And I think that this is if this had happened even 5 years ago, would the same thing have happened? I don't know. So I do think that this does speak to a little bit of the way that people are actually looking at power in this city and in this industry. And for my 2 cents are that I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah, no, well said. It really is. And that said, now there's this huge power vacuum at Warner Media now, I suppose, where all of these companies are being aligned into this one vertical. Sujihara was supposed to be overseeing it. And now, you know, who steps in?
So since they own HBO now, you'll have the next season of HBO's Succession will be about the WB.
You know what? I'd honestly be fascinated to watch it. My prediction is Toby Emmerich, who is the former head of New Line, He oversaw Lord of the Rings. He oversaw the Conjureverse movies. He's the chairman of WB Pictures Group now. So I think Emmerich or Sue Kroll. I really do. It was weird when Sue Kroll left because she was just a massive name on the lot, and it was just very interesting in their most recent executive shakeup that she like shunted off into her own thing. It was just sort of strange to me. And well, Barry Meyer leaving for Kevin Tsuchihara's to step in was also sort of felt weird. But yeah, so my money is on Kroll or Emmerich if I was going to do a Game of Thrones prediction on who takes over.
Yeah, and I definitely think with something like this, it's like, we're not saying that with the CEO leaving, it's like these movies that are either being shot or in production, like those are for the most part not going to be affected at all. It's like the long-term strategy.
Yeah,
like,
it takes a lot to turn that ocean liner.
It's not like Joker's not going to come out in October because the CEO's leaving. It's more like, you know, a couple years in the pipeline, what actually does get developed, what strategies does, like, you know, I immediately thought of like, I wonder where that Matrix thing's going to land now. Because, you know, that felt very much like a direction of one regime, like, let's go comb through our stuff and find what we can still exploit, you know?
I think you bring up an interesting point. The ability to change and shift and evolve at the studios and at an executive level is still very much locked sort of in the past. I think streaming and the internet has moved everybody's taste so fast. Like, what's the new thing? What's the new thing? You guys aren't doing a good enough job. What's the new thing? How are you going to change this? How are you going to change this? And I think at the top, in terms of studio strategy and stuff like that, that is still very much an ocean liner. Like, whatever they've locked in at Warner Brothers for the next couple years as tone, like, that's what's locked in. I honestly think that the tone shift on DC, while obviously absolutely needed, that triage was necessary. Like, I think it's impressive that within that amount of time they were able to just do a complete 180. Like, we've had a lot of jokes at the expense of, like, there's going to be a Birds of Prey movie, there's going to be 4 Birds of Prey movie, there's going to be 8 Harley Quinn spin, but the fact that, like, they took whatever weird roadmap they had, you know, pre-Justice League, BVS had just come out, and we're able to so quickly be like, okay, like, what is the new direction of this thing? We've got to figure it out. It's actually pretty impressive because these things move slowly.
That's why the ocean liner thing is perfect, because it's like you can't just turn right in a big ocean liner. Like, it's a gradual, and you have to plan it, and then, you know, then you still hit an iceberg.
Yeah, I think it says a lot that, like, I'm excited for Wonder Woman 84. I'm excited for the new Joker movie. I'm looking forward to Birds of Prey. And it's like, oh, wow, yeah, there's a lot of, like, goodwill going forward where there was a real lack of it prior.
Boys, let's make fun of a poster.
Okay.
This is the new Once Upon a Time in Hollywood poster. This is via To Her, who premiered it. Let's just show that. Look.
There's something weird about Brad Pitt's head /
And
face.
Leo.
I can't figure out what it is, but his head looks weird. Am I wrong here? Does Brad Pitt's face look weird?
Well, I think he's getting older.
Yeah,
I mean,
It just looks. But
it looks like they're trying to make him.
He was in a movie.
But it looks like they're trying to make him not look older, but they're like fighting the wave of time. That's what it looks like.
They didn't make him look like full Jeff Spicoli in the picture, but like he definitely,
Well, it also looks like there's some weird Photoshop chicanery going on, like that.
You think they touched up old Brad Pitt? Well, I think. Wait, are you guys accusing Brad Pitt?
No,
of being
not
touched
so
up on
much.
that
Throw the
poster?
poster back up, JTE. Just their postures and their like. There's just something like they put a different head from a different pose on that body. Same with Leo. There was
Leo looks like he came out of a magazine. I don't know. I got no qualms with Leo.
Yeah,
There's
I gotta
something
go
about
with
the
Dan. I gotta go with Dan on that.
What devil or how many devils?
Are they the same height?
I mean, you have to ask Ken Knapsack. I don't know. I don't know my Brad Pitt.
But as we learned before the show, height can be very deceptive. Did you guys know at home that Joe Starr is actually taller than Dan?
I didn't know that.
Hal and I had no clue. Yeah.
It really
my
threw you guys
mind
for a
got
loop this
blown.
morning.
I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah, if you guys ever
but-
want to know what happens right before we're rolling, it's height competitions.
But like, there's so little going on in that poster. Like, they just want to introduce it and say, "Hey, Do you like handsome, cool guys?
Here they are.
Check this
Here's
out.
the thing, though. There's so little going on in that poster, but so many people. Were
there we
are you
go.
guys going to talk about that poster today? You guys going to talk about that poster?
Really?
And I finally wanted to be like, yes, we are, because I want you to see what we have to say when there's absolutely nothing to say about a poster of two dudes hanging on a car.
Just chilling on that car.
I mean, I have no immediate reaction other than it. I mean, it looks a little polished for a Tarantino poster. A lot of times they're very, but I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, it's the movie's about, I guess, the aftermath and the lead up and everything around the Manson murders. So instead of putting anything like gory and bloody Manson-y in the poster, he's just banking on like what's the most prominent thing in the movie. These two dudes together. I mean, it reminds me a little bit. It's kind of like a B-side to like in Heat. If you had De Niro and Pacino together on a poster, it's like, oh, okay, what's coming? But
they're both epically looking this way while an asteroid falls.
Yeah.
What was the last really big Brad Pitt box office smash?
World War Z.
World
Was
War Z
that-
made a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of my Pitt filmography in my head.
I'm just thinking, like, just putting. I mean, Leo and Quentin Tarantino, obviously, but besides that, like, just putting Brad
Inglourious.
Pitt. But
I mean,
that
that wasn't a
was
box
long
office
time
smash,
ago. That
Before
was,
World War Z.
Was that before World
Yeah.
I think it was.
like, does putting Brad Pitt on a poster sell your movie anymore? Like,
Oh,
obviously,
yeah.
this has other
Yeah.
components.
Because I mean, Brad Pitt is still a star.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm asking. What was like? That's like George Clooney's a star, but like he never like has like huge blockbusters. Even when he does, it's like Tomorrowland, where it didn't really.
Gravity. Gravity made a lot of money. He was in Gravity. Up in the Air made a lot.
I
of
would
money.
argue Sandra Bullock is really the selling point of Gravity.
Yes, but I'm saying like he was in a movie that made a lot of money.
Here's my thing. I just
And
realized
by
what
default,
it
he was the second lead in
Sure.
that film because there was
of
only
four
two.
people, yeah.
is. Bring that picture. Bring Brad back up. Now I might be crazy, but doesn't he kind of look like Sam Rockwell playing Brad Pitt in a biopic of Brad Pitt? I think the main thing that was just sort of jarring to me, again, it's fine. It's a poster, and jarring is a very dramatic word to use for it. But like Tarantino posters are dope. Like they're usually just really, really cool. Like the Reservoir Dogs poster is
Is that the
Oh,
one
hell
where-
yeah.
one of the
iconic.
greatest of all time. Yeah, it's like
Or
it's
like her
absolutely
laying
iconic.
on the bed and it's like the style of like an old pulp magazine for
Yeah.
Pulp
Yeah,
Fiction.
yeah.
For sure.
Even Kill Bill, which was ostensibly just a picture of Uma Thurman, just like everything it called to mind, the riff on Bruce Lee,
Striking image.
Yeah, just the stark sort of colors on it.
I mean, in this one, he's banking on handsome squared.
Yeah, yeah. I guess there's not even any feet in that poster, and it's a Tarantino movie, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, no feet.
Yeah, no feet. Maybe he's saving them for the international poster.
Yeah, where are those sweet Leo Piggly Wigglies?
That made me feel like I had a hair in my throat. So yeah, there's that poster. We've talked about it.
Did they change the release date? Was it always July?
I don't know.
I always just look at you like, come on, Wikipedia, tell me these things. Brad Pitt box office release dates.
My reaction to that entire poster is really like, huh. And now we're in our fourth minute, so I don't know. I have no idea.
We're going to OT on this one.
Pull it out.
All the ripping on these middle-aged handsome men aside, this is
We got him.
Yeah. Oh, we got him. Zing.
Felt that, Leo.
This is absolutely one of my top most anticipated movies of the year. I am just like I'm jonesing
agreed.
to see a little.
I just dare each and every one of our
Time Hollywood.
audience to now ask us to analyze these posters again. It's like, this is why we usually don't do it. It's like two dudes on a car, sick poster.
Set it in front
That's
of the
a
Hollywood
movie.
sign.
Yep.
I'm just trying to figure out what hill they found to take that picture from the Hollywood sign. I've never quite seen that angle. I don't think you're allowed to drive back there, gentlemen. Wherever you guys are, you definitely hopped a fence and a ranger's going to find you.
What is Leo leaning on? There's nothing to lean
That's a
on.
very good question.
Oh yeah.
He's leaning on the side of the poster, Billy.
He's defying the laws of physics.
Brad Pitt's leaning on the side of the poster.
Is that part of the movie?
They're both leaning on just the concept of the frame, like the literal movie frame. game.
What are you trying to say, Quentin Tarantino?
What does it all mean?
Tell us.
They're at the thing at the Hollywood Highland Mall. That's where that view is
like,
from.
where
And they're leaning on the elephant.
they're
foot.
about to go to the Gap.
I don't know.
Joe and Billy are onto something. What is just the physics of that poster?
It's the same thing that all the Avengers are looking at. I don't know, something off screen.
That's what they're leaning on. Whatever they're leaning on, the Avengers are looking at that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we found it. Okay, guys, we fixed it. A lot of cool things coming up. If you didn't check out movie fights last week, great fight. Dan, Christian Harloff, Billy Business.
Oh, heck
Hal
yeah.
on the ones and twos.
Oh,
great
that was
show, you guys.
that was good times. Quite a good throwdown. Next one is coming up this Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Movie fights.
So excited for you to be sabotaging all future schmoedowns with nothing but horse questions because Christian found a weakness.
yeah.
Horse
God.
movies. Yeah, that's going to be on the wheel.
For real.
So, Joe, that was your question.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. What is we had a tiebreaker? What's your name? The best horse movie? Or
the best movie with a
about
horse.
a horse.
Yeah.
It was so.
No, it's not best movie with a horse.
Yeah.
No,
about a
that would
horse.
have been
Just
so
say this.
different.
It was not
Yeah.
best movie with a
That
horse.
would've been
'cause
like
then
Lord of
I
the
go
Rings.
Unforgiven. I can go anything. No,
Yeah.
it was best movie.
Oh, like any Western.
About a horse.
About a horse.
Not with a horse. About a
The
horse.
semantics
guys.
were huge.
Here's a question I have. So if that's the question, best movie about a horse. Sorry to Bother You would not count.
I would
Or
argue sorry to bother you.
Okay.
I would accept Racing Stripes, and that's about a zebra. At least it's
Play by
horse
the rules of your
adjacent.
own questions.
If one of
Apparently,
you-
the question was way harder.
Sorry
by
to
the way.
bother you is not about a horse.
But if after a 90-second pause, one of you had been like, "Sorry to bother you," I would have been like, "You know what? Fine." And
It
it
was just dead air at that point.
I would have been like, "That's acceptable." Hildalgo is the answer.
Oh yeah.
We've got
Yes, that classic Hidalgo that everyone knows and can pull off the top of their head on a moment's notice. How could I not have thought of Hidalgo?
Although best movie featuring a horse, I just go Godfather. Just go
exactly.
Godfather.
Yeah.
Dan. You know, I know we get tired of just talking about Marvel movies all the time, and I did this for you.
You went
Yeah,
too far the
don't-
other way, man.
I did this for you so that we could talk about.
Wait, bullshit for you. I was the one that got screwed. I was arguing for a different movie than I thought it was. Apparently, Black Stallion and Black Beauty are very different movies.
Guys, we have an honest trailer dropping tomorrow. I think we did the tease on Twitter, so if you don't know what it is yet, go check out what we're doing. We have a review of Us on Wednesday.
Yes, this week on Wednesday.
And then
cool.
the Shazam embargo drops this weekend, so that review will be dropping then. And Dan's putting together a really cool charting today. I'm really excited about it.
It's a deep dive. If you like charting deep dives, it's a deep dive on Captain Marvel, because there's a lot of stories about Captain Marvel, box office and stuff. It's not about any. It's about box office and Captain. There's so many Captain Marvel videos you can do, but there's a lot of stories going on about Captain Marvel, box office. I read them. I looked into them. I'm still looking into them. I want to get to the bottom of it. I want to see, look at the numbers. I want to try to just bring a little perspective and reality and everything. And that's not to say that everything that's going out there is not true, but there's a lot of stuff that isn't being said. So I'm looking at the numbers, and I want to just kind of put everything in perspective, try to give just a wider look at how it's doing, what it's done in the past. A lot of people sent me stories. I asked for some things that people wanted me to look into. I got some great suggestions. I'm looking into them. I have looked into them, and I look forward to talking about it on Charting today.
Dan, thank you for your honesty. Guys, that... Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Dude, I just saw you waiting to pull that trigger, too. I was like, oh, it's coming. Oh, it's coming.
You hate me
My
so
knees out
much.
from under me.
Dan, I had an idea what you can call that kind of segment.
Yeah.
Triple D, Dan's Deep Dives.
Oh, yeah, guys.
See, all I think of when I hear Triple D is diners, drive-ins, and dives. And I would never take that from Guy Fieri.
I always love a trip to Flavortown.
Guys, Dan's taking on a trip to Numbertown later today, and we will see you tomorrow on SJU. Be nice to each other.